Welcome back to this latest episode of Japan's top business interviews. I'm your host, Dr. Greg Story, the president of Dale Carnegie Tokyo Training. And my special guest today is Ikuo Yasuda, who is the president and founder of Pinnacle. Yasuda-san, great to have you with me today.
Hi, Greg. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and you've had a very long and successful career in Japan, doing many things, including your own company, Pinnacle now. But let's go back. Just give us a brief background on some things that's happening. How did you start in your career? What things have you done? And we'll sort of pick it up a little bit later with your leadership experiences.
Okay. I graduated from the Hitotsubashi University in the year of 1977. And I immediately after the graduation, I entered the Long-Term Credit Bank of Japan, for short LTCB. Okay. And at that time, LTCB doesn't exist anymore. And the bank's name changed to the Shinsei Bank, as you may know. And
which is where I used to work.
Right. And when immediately after I joined the LTCB, I was assigned to the several branches doing the what shall I say, collection of the deposit and making a loan to the big corporates. And the nature of the Long-Term Credit Bank of Japan, as the name shows, that in order to finance to the big corporates for the long sort of a term-based sort of a financing to build up a factory or to build up some new business or something like that. So Long-Term Credit Bank of Japan, LTCB, is different from the normal sort of city banks like Fuji Bank, Mitsubishi Bank. Those are all changed the name to the Mizuho Bank, Mitsubishi UFJ, blah, blah, blah. But because I felt that such a sort of contributing to the Japanese corporate sort of growth would attract me, so that I selected that bank.
So how long were you with Long-Term Credit Bank for?
Very long. I joined the LTCB at my age of 23 years old, and then if my memory is correct, I was there up until my 44 years old.
Right.
And the reason why I left was because LTCB, because of the collapse of the bubble economy, and then LTCB accumulated lots of bad loans, so that LTCB has to be rescued by the government and then nationalized. And so maybe 1 month or 2 months before sort of being forced to the nationalized, the head of human resources, who was the board member, assembled the workers whose age above 40 years old in one places, and then trying to persuade the early retirement plan. And then I raised the hand.
Oh, he said, I'll go.
And then I never thought about leaving the jobs because I'm talking about almost 40 years, more than 40 years ago. At that time, Japanese people, once you get into the one good company, big companies, you work through up until you are enough age, such as 60 years old. Sort of a whole life employment system. No one doubt about it. So that when I joined the LTCB, I never doubt that I'm going to change the job. But because of the sort of difficulties of the banks, and then the bank's sort of atmosphere was not the one that same bank as the bank that I really liked. So that I raised a hand. And then I was receiving lots of sort of a headhunters sort of offer, and I declined all of them because I liked LTCB. But because of the situation was like that, I selected the early I picked up the early retirement plan, and then I joined GE.
Oh, okay. What made you choose GE?
Why?
Yeah, why GE?
Why GE? That's a good question. Headhunters offered me that job, and also at that time, CEO of GE was Jack Welch, that famous Jack Welch.
Famous Jack Welch, yes.
Yeah, and Jack Welch was said to be the best sort of CEOs of the century. And then GE was said to be, at that moment, was almost the best company in the world. So I wanted to learn about, what should I say, the management or leadership or sort of I thought I could learn something out of GE, and also I could learn something about from Jack Welch. And so
did they send you to Crotonville, the famous Crotonville?
That's the good questions. But I stayed at GE only for 2 years or a little bit more,
quite sure.
because I was hunted by. I will tell you that later. But so only 2 years I stayed there. And then as for your question about the Crotonville opportunity, I was selected to be there, but before going to the Crotonville, I was headhunted to the next place.
Okay.
So back to the sort of Japanese sort of working environment about 40-something years old. Unique sort of episode was there when I was working in New York branch of LTCB. I participated into the syndicate loan for one U.S. company, and then the signing ceremony. After signing ceremony, dinner kind of things, closing dinner took place, and then the chairman of the sort of host of the signing ceremony asked the participants, about 10 participants, so representative of each syndicate loan banks. I'm the only one Japanese banker. The rest of the 9 are the US-based or European-based the bankers. He asked, is any one of you never changed a job, never changed your wife? Raise the hand. I was the only one who raised a hand. That was 40 years ago.
Yeah.
So about 40 years ago, up until 40 years ago, Japanese people, almost no one tried to change the job, and then no one tried to change the wife. At this moment, maybe I could say my gut feeling says 70% of, above 40 years old, 70% of the businessmen change the job or change the wife, maybe, at this moment. But 40 years ago, it's very rare. So that when I joined the LTCB, I never thought about changing the job. And then I like the banks very much at that moment.
But it must have been quite a different style of work in the GE company compared to long-term credit bank. I mean, long-term credit bank, lifetime employment.
Yes.
You get moved around in your job.
And then the seniority system.
System.
Age seniority system.
You got sent to the States, we were on the special group sent abroad. Right. But GE, Jack Welch always said bottom 10% every year has to get fired.
Right.
And the boss has to make the selection,
That's
the curve, right?
And also succession plan always requested.
Yeah, so totally different management system. So for you, what was that like when you joined GE and you found, wow, this is completely different way of leading people?
Immediately after I moved to the GE, I was commuting by the Tokaido line. And then when I was just a mere sort of bankers at the LTCB, I was jicho before bucho, joint general manager in English title. And for that title, I couldn't commute by the green car, first class car.
Right.
But after I moved to the GE, I was allowed to commute by the green car. And then when I took on the green car, my sort of a client, Kawasaki Steel, now changed the name to the JFE Steel CFO, was on the green car, on the same car. And then my jicho status couldn't talk to the CFO of JFE.
Yeah.
There was 2-3 more radar to sort of parallelly, equally speak to the CFO of the Kawasaki Steel.
All right.
But coincidentally, I took on the same train.
Right.
And then he asked me, like you,
Yeah.
what's the differences working in sort of a Western company compared to the Japanese company? I answered to him that, what shall I say, payment to the workers. What shall I say? Jinkenhi, personal sort of expenditure. In Japanese corporates, sort of a human personal expenditure, is that right terminology?
Personal expenses, yes.
Personal expense is the fixed cost. But when I moved to the Western company, personal sort of expense is a kind of a flexible expenses rather than fixed cost. For example, the bonuses or the annual compensation, depending upon your performances, so different each year. And also the promotion system. Japanese corporates is age seniority system is always implied, was always implied. I think is still there, somewhat still there, exists. A U.S. company, age doesn't mean so much. Actually, when I joined the GE, my immediate boss was 5 years younger than me, the American guy, who was the head of GE Capital, the president of GE Capital Japan. I was assigned to as a head of business development, so that my president of GE Capital was my direct boss. And also, like you said, below 10% is going to be fired. So that fixed cost versus sort of floating cost, is that good terminology, good English? So that's the first things I realized as the biggest changes. And also, what shall I say? If you are working in Japanese corporates in the context of age seniority systems, which means if I'm a kacho manager, and then if my immediate boss is a bucho, general manager, often this lower level manager is better than bucho. That happens in Japanese corporate systems. So that the quality and then the ability would be younger one, and then the lower class is happen to be better than your boss. And then why Japanese worker would not claim for that? It's because if you wait, just simply wait for several years, you obviously could promote to the senior level. So you don't have to claim, just you should be patient.
Don't be in a rush.
Also, the human resources department people could understand that division, Mr. Yasuda, although he's mayor kacho, is better than his immediate boss, Bucho. So that's how I could feel somewhat could be patient because somebody else is the headquarter guys could understand. I recognize I'm better than your immediate boss. That's the Japanese style of working at that time, but still exists today. Yes.
And from terms of you were leading teams inside the long-term credit bank, and now you're leading a team inside GE. Did you have to make some changes to your leadership style?
Very much.
Or what were the changes you had to make?
Very much. When I was working in a Japanese corporate, LTCB, even if you are kacho or bucho, you don't have to, what shall I say, work harder. What shall I say? You can let your associates work harder, and then you can get the report from those person, and then maybe bucho level could be okay to be the coordinator as far as your younger sort of associates can do something safe, Doesn't have to be very profitable, maybe can be safe. When I moved to the GE, you yourself, even if you are managing director, the head of a business development, you yourself has to work hard. You yourself have to make a presentation in front of a client. Japanese sort of a working system, if you are a client, if we have to make a presentation, and then if I am the head of this group, I say just 1 minute kind of say hello to the in front of your client.
Yes.
And then after, thank you for accepting my this opportunity to make a presentation. We are very glad to do. And then my associate will make a presentation. Please listen to that kind of things. It's the Japanese typical style of presentation. But when you move to the GE or whatever, this company, you yourself have to make the very strong presentations. That's the difference.
Was that, for you, was that challenging? Because you probably hadn't had to make a presentation for a long time because your associates are taking care of it. Now suddenly you have to be the person presenting. Was that quite challenging for you?
That was not challenging for me because I myself was maybe good at making a presentation, maybe. I felt I should to make better presentation than my subordinates or associates.
I guess also you had time in New York as well, where I'm sure you had to be more like in that role of being the face of the bank. And you're leading the meeting, leading the presentations as well. Well, your management style in the Japanese system was one way. But now you're managing people in the GE system as your subordinates. What was different about the way you managed them compared to when you were at the long-term credit bank?
What shall I say? If I compare this to the professional baseball player, you can be the best pitcher or you can be the sort of slugger.
Yes.
You have to hit many home runs or you have to win by pitching.
Yes.
Very much.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So that because of that, you can earn the positions and you can earn the annual sort of a compensation.
Yes.
But in Japanese working style, if you are doing very well with your senior,
yes.
Without even if you don't have to make hit lots of home run. If you are doing if you can make your senior comfortable, you can promote. So even if below me,
Yes.
might be doing same,
Right.
might have a same sort of a mentality.
Yes.
So that I'm not sure whether I can properly answer to you, but that's kind of a differences.
Mm-hmm.
And then even if you don't make many home run, your sort of annual salary was somewhat fixed
Yes.
in Japanese context.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the sort of a differences what I am feeling.
So as a leader at GE, were you putting more individual pressure on your subordinates to perform because their salary, bonus, etc., is based on performance, whereas in the Japanese system, it's based on they're supporting you, making you feel comfortable.
Right.
It's a bit of a different
Very,
thing,
very different. So that in order for me to perform very well, your subordinates have to perform very well
Yeah.
for themselves, but at the same time for myself.
Yes.
Unless otherwise,
Yes.
my next year job would be
Yeah.
unstable, maybe,
Yes.
uncertain, right?
Yes.
So that I have to be very sort of strict to my subordinates.
Uh-huh.
And then the boss, like I said, in Japanese context, boss sometimes inferior to the myself.
Yeah.
But in U.S. context, your boss is superior to myself because of his ability, regardless of the age. So that when you talk to your boss, I feel very unsafe.
Ah.
I feel very sort of nervous
Oh.
when you talk to your boss because he himself had a sort of power to determine my compensation next year, or he had a power to change my positions to somewhere else.
Yes.
But in Japanese corporates, human resources divisions
Yeah.
has such a sort of a power.
Yes. Yeah.
And then human resources divisions has a power to change the job. Particularly the bank, rotation system is very prevailed. Banks management on the human resources thought that sort of experiencing of the different sort of divisions would be good for one person's for the future promotions. So that human resources divisions, once they assign myself to the one division, maybe in 2-3 years, try to change that to the completely different divisions. But in a U.S. company, if you are specialized in one sections, one skills, you are forced to be stick to the one sections
All the time.
all the time.
And so, did you, in terms of your staff, were you feeling you had to carefully, closely watch their work all the time?
This company?
In GE?
In GE, yes.
Or did you give them freedom to work? Did you, you can go two ways. You can go very, very strict, or you could go rather encourage them, let them try things, let them encourage them. Which way did you go?
GE case, if you compare to the LTCB, you try to energize the subordinates to perform very well, but somehow allow their discretions. And then the results and then performance is always important. So that in order to reach to the certain sort of goals or performance, I try to allow their sort of discretions.
Right. Give some freedom.
Right. But in LTCB case, harmony is always important. Harmony is always important. So that this is just a comparison level, but if you dare to compare, the Japanese corporate LTCB case was less allowance of the discretion.
Right.
Yeah.
And also what about praise? Because I'm guessing that in LTCB, everyone was expected to work hard. Everyone is expected to be patient. Everyone is expected that over time you will get promoted. So keep working hard. But in the sort of GE system, which is all about performance, about hitting the goals based on your hit the goal or didn't hit the goal, what happens to you next. And also I'm guessing that probably, I don't know, but I'm wondering, was praising people an important part of the role as the boss? You give, oh, you're doing a really great job, I really appreciate you. Maybe in LTCB you didn't need to do that much. What do you think?
In comparison cases, you are right.
Yeah.
You can say that. So motivates. Motivation, if you motivate your subordinate, that would lead to the good performance. So I feel motivates the people, sometimes I have to be very strict to the sort of balance is important. But what shall I say? Ame to muchi, whip and candy, kind of sort of approach to your subordinates is important.
Yeah, okay.
And then maybe LTCB case, everything would be somewhat mediocre kind of things.
And did you get praised by your younger boss? Do they have that same system that even at your level he praises you, oh, you're doing such a good job, Yasuda-san?
Yeah. My boss was very sort of scary guy, but sometimes he invited me to his house to have a dinner.
Nice.
So ame to muchi is kind of a
Same
balance.
thing.
He was using very well.
Right.
One thing, the differences of the, what shall I say, management system between GE style and LTCB style. In GE, you may know that very famous GE way kind of was there. And then among the 10 sort of GE ways, kind of, what shall I say, commandment kind of things.
Principles type.
Yeah, principles. One was saying stretch. Your goal is very important. And this stretch means when I moved to the GE, I felt stretch was very much. For example, good example, when I was at LTCB, I would, I have to sort of make some goals for the next year performances to the headquarters of this Eigyo divisions. And then the way making a sort of annual sort of a target is mediocre, what shall I say. If I make a goal of, say, 10% more than this year's performances, if this is too aggressive, headquarters of Eigyo divisions also, what shall I say, would worried about that this division couldn't reach to the target. That would not looked good for the headquarters too. Right? So that this happens. The headquarters may say to me, 10% wouldn't be too aggressive, too stretch. You can lower to the 7% or something like that.
Right, they adjusted.
Right? Yeah. And then after 1 year has passed, 7% goal would be achieved. Because of such a, right.
Everyone's successful.
A sort of a reachable target is going to be implied by sort of making sort of internal negotiation with the headquarters and front. But Jack Welch's stretch, when I actually face this moment, when I make the sort of next year's annual target goal in the video screen, Jack Welch, and then the board members was there in the screen.
Whoa,
right.
That's pressure.
Yeah, and then myself and then my senior, my head of GE Capital was, say, has to show the stretch. So my boss said, in front of a bunch of board members, said, I'm going to make very aggressive goals, 10% more than this year. Jack Welch simply says, "Oh, I don't feel stretch."
10% is not enough.
Without investigating or without the prior sort of a study or something, just he said, "I don't feel stretch." And then my boss, GE Capital Japan head, has to say, "Okay, I take 50% as a next year's sort of a target."
Yes.
That kind of things.
Yeah.
But that's too stretched,
Yes.
so that you can't reach to the 50% goal.
Yes.
But because of the stretch goal,
Yes.
we could, GE Capital Japan next year could reach to the 10%.
Right.
So that sort of unreached 10% is better than sort of a reached 7% of the LTCB case.
Yes. Yes.
That's I felt sort of a stretch
Yes.
very much.
Yes. A lot of pressure, right? A lot of pressure. And after GE, where did you go after GE?
After GE, Lehman Brothers Japan
Lehman,
as a country head.
Okay.
And then this was a unique episode. The reason why I was headhunted by the Lehman Brothers, when I was at the head of business development at the GE, luckily, fortunately, GE Capital could acquire a sizable acquisition. And so Morgan Stanley then had a seminar in front of ACCJ, American Chamber of Commerce. And then I was requested to make a sort of a keynote speech of the half-day sort of a seminar in front of 200 US-based companies, Japan head. And then I made a sort of a lecture as to how GE Capital could successfully build up or increase the business, and then could make such a sizable acquisition one after another. Immediately after I made such a keynote speech, next day, several phone calls coming to me to offer me to the job as a head of whatever US-based sort of Japan head.
Right. Okay.
And then because I was very satisfied with working in GE, I declined all of them. But Lehman Brothers made some misunderstanding that because of the offer was not enough,
okay.
Yasuda maybe declined. So that they come back with the higher sort of compensation.
Right.
And I declined. And then Lehman Brothers again come back with some much more higher sort of annual compensation level.
Yes.
I declined.
Right.
After all, I was offered as a head of investment banking. That's the three major division. One of the three major divisions head, the head of investment banking. But they certain when they come back to me, they offered me for the country head and head of Lehman Brothers Japan.
Wow. Okay.
Head of investment banking Japan. So country head and head of investment banking.
Both, right.
Both. So to be the president and CEO of Lehman Brothers Japan is was very attractive.
Yeah.
And twisted my arms very much.
Yes.
So that I finally accepted.
So what year was that?
Eh?
What year was that?
What year? I couldn't remember the exact year. Almost
Because that was like 2008 was the Lehman shock. So how many years before?
That was 4 or 5 years before Lehman shock,
Okay,
so-called
right.
Lehman shock. So my poor successor faced that moment.
Yes.
So I was lucky.
You got out beforehand. Nice.
Maybe a year and a half or 2 years before so-called Lehman shock.
If you want to be successful as a leader, do the Leadership Training for Managers course. All companies need people who can both manage and lead. Leading people screams out for real skills in communication, dealing with all different types of people, being excellent at innovation, planning, delegation, handling mistakes, doing performance reviews really well, and inspiring and motivating the team. Do the Leadership Training for Managers course now in either Japanese or English. Are you doing business with Japan? Do you really know how things work? Japan Business Mastery provides the answers. Do you have the right networks and know how to create them? Do you know how to get on the same wavelength with Japanese buyers? Do you know what being trustworthy looks like from the Japanese perspective? Japan Business Mastery is based on more than 30 years' experience in Japan and will become your go-to guide. Want to succeed in Japan? Buy Japan Business Mastery now. When you got to Lehman, I mean, when they, I can imagine if they're offering you a lot of money, high position, expectations must be really high as well.
Yes.
And, maybe Jack Welch's expectations are also high, but I'm guessing that must have been a lot of pressure.
That must be a lot of pressure, but before I joined the Lehman Brothers Japan, maybe 3 years before I joined the Lehman Brothers Japan sort of decreased the size of the business because at that time Lehman Brothers Japan was not so profitable, so that decrease of the equity division, that kind of thing. So that I was there to somehow recoup, rebuild. So that although pressure was very much, but I couldn't feel very much of pressure. But the pressure is different from Lehman Brothers and the GE Capital, because GE Capital, as the head of business development, as far as you are making a series of acquisitions, or as far as you are developing new business, that's okay. There is what shall I say, profitable numbers are not implied. And then Lehman, as a Lehman Brothers Japan country head, you are always posed the big number.
Yeah.
And
so did your leadership approach stay the same? For example, when you moved from long-term credit bank to GE, you had more motivational and supportive. When you moved to Lehman, did you continue that style?
It's different.
Okay.
Not only because of the differences of the industry, investment bankers versus GE Capital Finance Company. Also, the differences causing because of my position. I was the top of the Japanese operation, so that I have to be responsible for the entire number, big number of the Lehman Brothers Japan. So that differences comes from the nature of the company and also nature of my positions.
So what was the difference in how you led people? What did you change to suit that circumstance, that situation?
Right. I have to be always responsible for the annual numbers, profitables, revenues, ROE for entire Lehman Brothers Japan. And that's the differences I feel most. Right.
And then after Lehman, where did you go after Lehman?
Yeah, right. The investment bankers, you don't have to be very old.
Right.
Okay. At the age of 50 years old, you should feel you should voluntarily resign.
Really?
Yeah. 50 years old is too old for the investment banking.
Right.
For example, when I joined the Lehman Brothers, I was around 46 or something. My immediate boss, Asian head, was 40 years old.
Wow.
Right.
Quite young.
Quite young. American guy.
Mm-hmm.
So that 56 is was the maybe oldest of the Lehman Brothers Japan, maybe.
Right.
Among the 1,000, more than 1,000 investment bankers. So at the age of 50, I felt I should make voluntarily resign. That's one thing.
Right.
And also, I felt I wanted to seek my own business.
Right.
And also, one negative thing I would dare to say is that, even if Lehman Brothers is Japanese-based, Lehman Brothers Japan is Japanese-based, but a bunch of senior guys are seconded from the U.S. headquarters to Japan.
Yeah.
And then there is an Asian sort of executive committee composed by the 8 people. I'm the only one Japanese.
Oh, okay.
And then the important decision-making is done by those 8 executive committees.
Right.
And then when you deal with the Japanese sort of conservative client, corporate clients,
Yeah.
you have to be conservative and then based on the long-term basis sort of relationship. Yeah. When the live door tried to make a hostile takeover against Nippon Broadcasting, which is the Fuji TV's radio subsidiary broadcasting company, and then the live door needed the big financings to acquire. And then at that time, Live Door, because of the hostile takeover nature, if any Japanese company makes such a move, you would lose the respect. So that no financing company don't want to help such a financing.
Yeah.
But Lehman Brothers did it.
They did it.
Yeah. And then because the fee for such a huge financing was very big.
Yeah.
So that sort of an executive member of the Asian committee chose to help. I felt in order to keep the long-standing sort of business, you have to keep sort of a respect. So that I felt, even if I'm the head of the Lehman Brothers Japan, I couldn't make the decisions by myself. And then so I wanted to create some my own company who can sort of provide the service with the, what shall I say, wakon yosai. Wakon means Japanese spirit with the Western very advanced technologies. So such a wakon yosai type of the consulting company, which is now Pinnacle.
Pinnacle, yeah. Which I have to say, I always thought that was a great name for a company. I thought you chose the name very well, and the logo looks really good too. You've
Pinnacle,
got a nice choice.
Name of the Pinnacle comes from my sort of memory when I was at the GE. Actually, there was a Pinnacle tour. Was annually every year sort of held. So that any sort of workers who had a good performance are selected to go to the Pinnacle tour. Jack Welch himself would take such a sort of contributors to the Africa or whatever, very nice place. And then I wanted to, if I stay there for another sort of a half year or so, I would be able to go to Pinnacle tour. So such a sort of a name was on.
It's a good choice.
Yeah, that's why I chose.
So when you started your own company, you had to start with like one person, and you have to recruit people to join you. So for Western companies who start up in Japan, they have a lot of trouble recruiting people because they don't have a track record. It's a new business. People are not sure, is this going to be successful? It's a bit risky. You talked before about being conservative. How did you overcome those issues in a Japanese context to get people to
when I started
Pinnacle?
But what should I say? I'm engaged in the sort of M&A, mergers and acquisitions sort of advisory firm. Was somewhat very, what should I say, popular jobs for the young people who build up sort of a professionalism. So that I didn't feel very much of sort of difficulties recruiting the good one.
This is around 2007, is it? About 2006, 7?
This year is 2022, right? We have 19 years of history.
Okay.
So that almost 2003, September, I founded this company.
Right.
And then when I determined to found this company, small articles on the Nikkei newspaper appeared. Former Lehman Brothers Japan head established M&A boutique company. And so several sort of young people from big bank or big brokerage firm came to seek for the job. And also, fortunately, immediately I established this company, such a live door things happens, so that bunch of TV news, every day, sort of broadcast about hostile takeover attempt by the live door or something. Immediately after live door, Rakuten tried to acquire TBS, that kind of things. I was requested to be as a commentator or M&A professionals on the national sort of golden time news as a commentator. So that I could make very good PR.
Yeah, incredible.
And my company's name was very much sort of spread out of the entire Japan without payment of paying any sort of advertising fee.
Great.
And I was almost every day. That was almost 19 years ago. So that our company's name was become very known. So that to be honest, I don't have to be so much worried about recruiting good people. And then I'm lucky now. Currently, I have a very good people.
How many people altogether now?
Altogether, 25. I don't have to. I thought that I don't have to make it bigger. So that 25 people, I think I can do enough to serve.
You had the experience of long-term credit bank system. You had the experience of GE's system, the experience of Lehman Brothers system. So now you have the blank sheet of paper, You can draw on the blank sheet of paper whatever you want to draw and make the company what you want it to be. What was your thinking about, what sort of culture do I want to create for my company, Pinnacle, that's really our culture or what I want it to be? What was your thinking? What were you looking for?
Are you talking about 19 years ago? Or
when you started, when you first started.
Like I said, Wakon Yosai.
Wakon Yosai, okay, right.
I wanted to make best sort of advice to the important corporate clients, by knowing the sort of nature of a Japanese corporate culture. Japanese corporate culture sometimes might not be very good because, as you know, that very slow decision making. And then, for example, if the M&A is the big event, even for the very big corporates. So that's sort of a board member decisions or CEO decision. But like you acknowledge that the Japanese sort of decision-making system is bottom-up. Bucho level, sort of middle level, is so important. And then sort of studying or making sort of a survey of the one M&A opportunity should be start from a bucho, and it takes 3 months
Yes.
to the eyes of the decision makers.
Yes.
That's the Japanese sort of corporate culture style. But you have to criticize. You shouldn't criticize that. That's a Japanese corporate culture. But in order for me, as a very small boutique, independent boutique firm competing against the big brokerage firm or big US-based investment bankers, I try my best to be acknowledged by the Japanese decision makers of each big corporates, to be a commentator on a national sort of a news show. It was starting one things. And then the second things is that I belong to the Keizai Doyukai. I'm the kanji, which means Keizai Doyukai, Japanese sort of a business leaders association. I don't know exact number, but approximately, what shall I say, 1,000 people maybe are the members of the Keizai Doyukai. I'm the kanji, the trustee of the, and then the top of the sort of belongs to the top of the sort of a pyramid. So that by doing this every other week, lunch sort of assemblies of the kanji is being held by having a very cheap sandwiches or curry rice, kanjis of the leaders of the Japanese corporates assembles in one places for 1 hour and a half every other week. And then, and also, like I know you, I could be the member of Tokyo Rotary Club. Like you know, the Tokyo Rotary Club is the Rotary of the Rotaries, right? Top of the Japanese bunch of Rotaries. And then even if you want to be the member of a Tokyo Rotary Club, unless you are somewhat acknowledged or allowed, you cannot be the Tokyo Rotary Club. That's a very important
very
to know very top level persons. And then one other thing is that I try my best. Almost every day, I'm offering so-called power lunch every day. You know, when you try to have a lunch or dinner, when you have a dinner, you have to sacrifice so many things. Long hours, alcohol always attached. And then coming back to the home, it has to be later.
Very late.
Very late and expensive, something.
Putting on weight.
Right. And then you might have to go to the next places in Ginza or something. But in terms of a lunch, even if you are a very significant person, very senior person, you have to have a lunch. Right? In the middle of business hours. So offering the lunch would not so bother sort of important sort of icon type of people. So I could easily offer without damaging his sort of several things times. And then so that once he accepted the lunch, I could enjoy 1 hour and a half minutes of sort of one-to-one sort of time, so that I could demonstrate and I could learn from such a very influential person's sort of skills and experience very much. And then I could somewhat offer some business deal opportunity to him directly. So that once sort of a head of Japanese corporate says, oh, this might be interesting opportunity, he would throw back to the bucho level.
Down to bucho.
And then bucho level start studies. But this way is so different. 3 months sort of can be reduced. The NC process can be reduced. Also, bucho level, after you promote one risky sort of M&A opportunity, and then after you acquire the company, if you failed, your promotion might be in danger, right? So that sort of bucho level, when they make the reports of the deal, there are a bunch of so many risk factors are written. And then when such a report comes to the CEO level, CEO felt so many risky transaction kind of things. So that's the sort of minuses of the Japanese sort of a bottom-up system when you try to promote M&A. But once start from the top, and then if he says, because I feel this is interesting, you guys, bucho levels should study. They are sort of a risk is somewhat averse already.
Yeah.
So that's how I'm trying my best to talk with the CEOs. And also I play the golf with the prestigious golf club and then that kind of things.
Right. And so, you think about within Japan, let's talk a little bit about M&A situation in Japan. You're an expert in this area. Where is Japan going with the M&A? Is Japan going in the right direction with M&As, or what do you think?
I should say in the right directions. When I started the M&A, I'm somewhat, Wikipedia tells me about I'm the pioneer of Japanese M&A businesses. When I started M&A as a business about 40 years ago at the Long-Term Credit Bank of Japan, the relationship between the banks and the corporate clients is making a loan, accepting the deposit, and then the differences of the sort of interest margin is the source of the profit of the banks. And then there will not be so fee income at that moment. Fee income is not so important. To serve the best, sort of providing the information or something like that to the corporate clients is important. So when I came back from New York after I learned about the M&A as a business, fee receiving business. I wanted to start the M&A divisions in LTCB. And then when I wanted to sort of, when I have good transactions for important clients, should acquire kind of target. My very senior, who is in charge of who is responsible for this particular corporate client, said to me, "You shouldn't take that fee. You should not request for the fee. The bank should provide such information and then the services and then the know-how as a sort of a service to the clients." I said, no, I have to take a fee. Kind of battle was there. And then also, about 40 years ago, there are not so much company for sale.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
And when at that moment, if the company determined to sell, it's said to be miuri. Miuri. When you try to acquire a company, Japanese context says nottori. You understand this nottori, and then miuri is, what shall I say, long in Edo era or something. If you are poor enough, you have to sell your daughter.
Right.
That kind of.
Right.
You call it miuri.
Okay, so desperate
sales. And then nottori is that sort of steal the company kind of things.
Oh, okay.
So about 40
very
years.
Negative image.
Very negative images of when you acquire a company, stealing the company kind of things. And then when you sell the company, you are sacrificing bargain sale kind of things or the kind of images.
Right.
And also taking the fee is a big challenges.
Right.
I started from such a things, such an area. But I wanted to do some business. But at this moment, taking a fee is natural cost, right? Natural request. And also there are many sort of opportunity, many companies determined to sell. For example, big corporates divest divisions or the subsidiaries. Unless they are a seller, no one can acquire unless you make a hostile takeover in a listed company, right? So M&A business, as a business then and now, are so different.
So what do you think? Are we going to see more M&A business?
Yeah, that's why the number of M&A is very much increasing year by year. Because of the like I said, the big corporates, in order to increase the ROE, less performing division should be sold. And then with that money, you should acquire the company with the future kind of things. 選択と集中, that kind of focusing on the core business kind of things. To approach that, to do that, M&A is needed. Second, the PE fund, private equity fund, so many fund is there. They are contributing very much. And also that business succession we call it the 事業承継. Business succession means that small company in a very local area, and then its founder gets old enough, and then his son doesn't want to succeed. Up until maybe 10 years ago, they just ceased operations without selling the company. But these days, government also try to promote also that a business succession a business is very much of booming now. So even a small company would be sold to the next another company, so that the company can still exist even if founder gets old. So because of those elements, M&A is so increasing very much. And then currently it is said fourth industrial revolution, now in the midst of the fourth industrial revolution. That is AI revolutions, and then the fintech revolutions, or internet revolution, that kind of metaverse revolutions. So such a big changes are now facing, right? So that a business environment has to be drastically, speedily changing. So that M&A is said to be the buying the time.
Right.
When you acquire the M&A, although it has a very big risk, but you can acquire people, and then business, market, and then the products, factory, that kind of things at once. So that M&A really fits in current a rapidly changing environment. So that number of M&A is drastically increasing.
You know, if you were going to give some advice to, say, someone being sent to Japan to run an organization in Japan, they don't know Japanese, they don't know Japan, they're being sent out here, okay, you run our Japan operation. What would be some advice you'd give them?
First of all, like I said, that you should try your best to try to understand Japanese corporate culture first. Very sometimes unproductive corporate culture. But that's the Japanese corporate culture. That's what you should understand. And also, Japanese is the third largest economy in the world. So that when you're getting into Japan, already very fierce competitors are already there in Japan, right? For example, if there is a very big system integrator company there, and then coming into Japan to increase the business in Japan. But already NEC, Fujitsu, NTT Data kind of big giants already in there. Even the IBM Japan is there. So that for the size of this Japanese market, for the size of a headquarters size, what you can earn from Japan is very small in comparison to your headquarters size, in comparison to the Japanese market. But you Japanese head who are sent from the mother country, would be criticized by the headquarter. Why your performance is so low under such a very big market?
Yes, yes.
You should persuade your senior in the home country. Said there are a bunch of fierce competitors already there.
Yeah.
Right. That's the difficulties for the foreigners coming into Japan.
Yeah.
That's one thing. Also, you can't make an outright acquisition at once.
No.
You always, foreign company always try to seek the majority of the company. But you should do the little bit of a leeway or wrong way to up until ultimately control the Japanese corporate.
So
starting from a minority, and then you let the Japanese target feel comfortable, and then let them allow them to increase the ownership very much. Like Merck, German-based or US-based big pharmaceutical companies, and they try to acquire Banyu pharmaceuticals. They started from 20% and then gradually increased. Now ultimately controlling. That's the success case of foreign countries coming into Japan. You have to be patient.
That's certain in Japan. You need patience.
Right.
And if you're going to give a definition of leadership, how would you define leadership?
Leadership. Leadership, if I have to forced to answer instantly, you have to show yourself as the most productive person in front of your people, employee. And you yourself has to be the showcase. So that your subordinates feel that because boss is so productive and then trying to contribute very much for the company, I should follow his path or something like that.
Something like that.
That's the leadership. You know, even if you don't perform very well, and then if you request too many things to the subordinates, you don't get the respect, right? Like Shohei Ohtani.
Yes.
He's hitting home runs and pitching.
Yeah.
No one criticizes him.
No.
Right? So if you are leadership, you have to work hardest among the the company without requesting too many things to the subordinate. I think that's the leadership. I think I have been doing that way, maybe. I'm the most productive person in my small organization, maybe.
Right. Anything else you want to add about leadership that we haven't covered already?
What else? Like ameto muchi, you have to be kind. And then, the one word I like most is that fairness.
Fairness, yeah.
Yeah. Fairness is the most important word. You know, even if you are criticizing your subordinates for the lack of performances or being lazy or something, it's okay for me to criticize him and shout at him because he's just lazy or. But if he is doing very well, after he does his best, as a result was a somewhat failure. I don't feel I should criticize him. That's the fairness, I think. And if I'm, I'm feeling I'm the father of the entire sort of employees.
Yes.
So like if you are the father, you are giving sort of your love to your children equally, right?
Yes.
Equally.
Yes.
So I would provide sort of a love to my associates.
Right.
Based upon that, I could criticize him,
Right.
I could praise him.
Right.
That's the fairness, I think. Promotion should be done based upon the sort of a fairness or something.
Yeah.
Providing the compensation or bonuses should be based upon the fairness. You know, unlike other sort of a Japanese corporate, I am making a sort of a bonus communication every year.
Okay.
At the end of the fiscal year end, you know, because of this year's sort of based upon this year's sort of profit, I would provide a sort of a bonus pool. And based upon this bonus pool, I am making sort of a bonus communication one by one from the secretary to the senior managing director, one by one. And then like a sort of a Major League Baseball sort of a annual sort of a right contract renegotiation, like I think. Because your performance, this year performance is so and so, I think I should give you this bonus. Or because of your this performances, I couldn't give you so much of a bonus. It's kind of communication. And then they are the one that they can come back to me if he feels sort of unfair.
Yeah.
He can come back to me.
Right.
And if his sort of insistence or something is really, you know, understandable, I could raise the bonus because of the negotiation. That kind of things I'm doing.
Very open.
Very open, yeah.
Well, Yasuda-san, thank you.
Thank you very
It's
much.
been a fascinating discussion, I have to say.
Right, I'm
You have
very
so much
sorry about my
experience.
poor English.
Oh, come on.
My
English is
poor
great.
English, because of my poor English, I'm not good as the speakers of your, you know, your past.
I think you did a wonderful job in
that right?
English, and it was very understandable. We had no problem. So
Thank you very much.
thank you very much for
Thank you
joining
very
us.
much.
So please join us again for our next episode of Japan's top business interviews.